watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Good morning to you and welcome into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer. Thanks for joining us here on this Tuesday morning, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. Good to be back with you after a couple of days off. Appreciate you joining us here this morning. And we do have a lot to get to this morning. Want to let you know coming up at 11:40, we have a live interview about legal aid during natural disaster. A lot of times when a hurricane hits, there are legal issues and questions that come up, and you may need someone in your corner. So there are folks out there who help people navigate these natural disasters. We're going to talk with one of them coming up in just a little bit, as we are now in hurricane season. Hopefully no major impacts this year, but certainly want you to be prepared. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. That is a live look right there of a Senate hearing being held right now on Capitol Hill about border policy and its impacts ahead of the World Cup, the Olympics, number of other sporting events around the country. That was Senator Langford asking some questions of one of the witnesses testifying. We heard just a little bit ago from Senator Ashley Moody of Florida, who is on this committee, who is part of this hearing. We will have more from that coming up in just a little bit. Governor Ron DeSantis and the Florida cabinet meeting earlier today. The governor talking about the budget, which still no resolution on that. Lawmakers still working to do that. Also talked about immigration and immigration enforcement. We will get you inside that meeting coming up in just a little bit. It wrapped up a little bit ago, but we will make sure you didn't miss anything from that. Also, Fox 35 Storm Team forecast and the fact that storms could impact a big outdoor concert tonight. We are talking about Post Malone and Jelly Roll that they are performing later today at Camping World Stadium. I thought I had that dialed up. Let me show you right here. Camping World Stadium, where they will be playing tonight, I believe 6:30. When that show starts. Big crowd expected for that concert. We'll talk with Brooks about that in a little bit, because there is some stuff you may need to know about the impacts of those storms tonight. But we begin this morning with one of the suspects connected to the same alleged gambling ring as Osceola County Sheriff Marcos Lopez walked out of jail last night. Fox 35 was there as Sharon Frederick bonded out of jail. But the suspended sheriff, we know, is still behind bars this morning. So Fox 35's Morgan Parrish tells us what could happen next.
Good morning. Yeah, so still a lot of questions that need answers, and it's really been the waiting game. We've been waiting to see if and when suspended Sheriff Marcos Lopez bails out of jail. But like you said, Sharon Frederick, she did bail out last night, and I want you guys to take a look at this video because she is one of the two women arrested in connection to this case.
To say about your involvement in this?
I don't have no involvement in this. Pick up the owner. I'm not the owner.
So again, you heard Frederick saying, she has no involvement in this case, but we did learn that she has more recent criminal history, most of it over in Orange County. That includes grand theft, scheme to defraud, identity theft, and grand theft auto. Now, her attorney says that she has been cooperative with this entire investigation.
8 felony grand thefts in Lee County from 1993. She also has federal history. In 2005, she served 2 years in federal prison.
And we're still working to learn how suspended Sheriff Lopez is allegedly connected to his co-defendants. We know that right now 2 more suspects are wanted in this case. Now, Lopez is still being held in jail on a $1 million bond, and we learned that he has to prove that that money to bail out is not connected to his criminal activity. So, of course, we're going to stay on top of this and continue to follow this case and bring you guys the latest details.
And we are following up on that story today. Hope to have some more details for you later today here on Fox 35 News Plus. Sanford police are looking for a driver who they say nearly killed a 3-year-old and then took off from the scene. It happened on Persimmon Avenue. We know the child is still in the hospital this morning, and as Fox 35's Marley Capper reports, we are hearing from that child's family.
I mean, this is just a devastating story. That 3-year-old was hit and basically left to die in the street here. Now, the child's grandmother is begging and pleading anybody in the community that knows anything to come forward or to turn yourself into police. Police are still investigating, so there's limited information on what they have released to us, but they say the driver got out of the car after hitting the child and ran off. The 3-year-old's grandmother, like we mentioned, has spoke to Fox 35, and she says the child's 13-year-old brother saw it all happen and ran to help her.
He ran and grabbed her, embraced her, comforted her. She's bleeding out her nose, ears, mouth, gasping for air. He kept this baby calm until the ambulance and helicopter was there to get her. She's trying to come through. She's opening her eyes and everything. She's moving her hands and legs.
Glad to hear that she is recovering. Still praying for her, though, as she goes through these next steps of healing. Again, police haven't released any information about a suspect yet, but if you know anything, you're urged to call Sanford Police.
What a sad, sad situation there, hoping that the 3-year-old pulls through. Well, this week marks 9 years since the Pulse nightclub shooting, that anniversary coming up on Thursday. And the city of Orlando is inviting survivors and families of victims to tour that building before it's torn down. The permanent memorial is going to go in its place, and the decision was to get rid of that nightclub building. So this week, tomorrow through Saturday, city guides will be taking small groups of those survivors and victims' family members through the building. We know there is going to be emotional support resources on the site there, because this could obviously be a very tough time for those folks walking through. We know about 100 people were registered for tours. Janie Lacey, who's a relationship trauma expert with Life Counseling Solutions, was on Good Day Orlando this morning to talk about processing events like this and how to deal with going through this site visit if family members are.
This is unique. We don't see this a lot. What would you advise someone if they're looking at doing this? Obviously, 100 people have said, we will do this.
Well, it is unique because not everyone has this opportunity, but it gets very complex when you look at especially Pulse survivors when they go back to the scene. So we look at 3 things. We're going to look at the individual. Everyone's journey on healing is very different, and some people may need to have this exposure therapy to have closure, where there's others where it can actually be re-traumatizing. But then we also look at the timing, like where everyone is at a different place in a healing journey, and healing doesn't have a timetable, so that's what's going to matter. And then the last thing we look at is their preparation. Like, how are they preparing to go to the actual site? And then aftercare will matter as well. So it really depends on the individual, but collectively there can be some benefits. Some benefits can be they can reclaim their power, and they can really have some one step of closure. This is not closure in and of itself, because healing is a journey, but that could be one step that they can reclaim their power, they can change a narrative for themselves, and then they can start processing it in a different way. But we have to be very careful, because it also can be re-traumatizing for many individuals. People can think they're prepared to go into that situation, but you're not necessarily going to know how you're going to respond until you're actually there. So having the right support, having trauma-informed therapists available for the individuals to process after will matter.
Yeah, and we know some people have probably said, we're not interested in doing this. And you mentioned the trauma, because some might get there and they think they're okay with it. And once they get there, they may be overcome with emotions, which I'm sure is a big reason why they have counselors there just in case.
And having the counselors there who are trauma-informed, who can intervene real time, can be very, very helpful. But most people, when they're doing what we call exposure therapy, it can be extremely intense, re-traumatizing, but then also if they're processing it in the moment, moving through it, it can also really be powerful in their healing journey.
Yeah, and in many cases, once they go through here, maybe this is, and then that building's gone, which for them, as some will, that'll be a painful mark, and others, it might bring them more closure.
Can bring them closure, and they can create new meaning. So by going back to the site, their last memories was one step in their process, but now they can create new meaning, they can reclaim their power, they can process very different, and they can honor their loved ones. If there were friends or family or people that they knew that did not make it to the other side, they can honor their memory by this experience.
We'll be right back with more Fox 35 News Plus after this. Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Brooks Garner joins me now, and Brooks, tracking some more chances of storms later today.
Yeah, Garrett, that's absolutely right. We have a lot going on right now in the atmosphere. There's a weak upper level disturbance that's rolling through Florida. There's going to be an interaction, a collision between the Gulf Coast and the Atlantic sea breeze, and that'll happen shortly after lunchtime, probably the next 1 to 3 hours, and that will result in widespread thunderstorms developing this afternoon. Lightning and damaging wind gusts are all potentials in these storms. Let's look at future radar. It looks like by 2 o'clock, our line of storms we've been tracking all morning long moving through the Ocala and I-75 region will finally approach the Atlantic coast in St. Johns County, where St. Augustine is. Ultimately, that will work eastward, and the Atlantic sea breeze coming out of Cocoa Beach will merge with this slowly approaching line of storms between 3 and 5 p.m., resulting in a blossoming of thunderstorms. And this is going to result in a widespread rain across a big swath of our region. While areas yesterday saw a few isolated thunderstorms, we could have a more widespread, slow-moving rain event here across the region with a widespread 1 to as many as 3 or 4 inches in spots. Lightning is going to be a big concern for us, as well as the potential, at least in the onset of these storms, of some damaging wind gusts. There's just a little dry air about halfway up the sky from the Saharan dust, and if that gets pulled into these thunderstorms, it can result in downburst winds over 60 miles per hour. So there is going to be a slight risk of severe storms on the Atlantic side, so really our Atlantic coastal counties this afternoon. Whatever storms form will slowly move east, and by 8 o'clock we should see that line pushing through Brevard County and Osceola counties before finally it starts to lose steam and the atmosphere starts to stabilize. But there's a big outdoor event going on this evening, on this Tuesday, across Orlando. It's at Camping World Stadium. It is the Post Malone concert, and Jelly Roll will be the opening act. So it's a big star-studded performance, and that kicks off at 6:30. So the big question is, will the rain be over by then? Will the lightning threat, more specifically, be over by then? It looks like there's a pretty decent chance, unfortunately, between 6 and 8 p.m. of some lingering storms. So there's a chance the concert gets delayed. If you've got tickets, and a lot of people do, just make sure you stay close to the forecast and check out the event coordinators. I'm sure on the website you can see what the status is. Lightning is going to be a moderate to high threat today in any storms, but what could make them severe is the wind threat. We could see winds over 60 miles per hour, small threat for hail, very isolated, but not non-existent threat for a funnel cloud or maybe even a brief weak tornado. That would happen when the sea breezes collide. Otherwise, it's going to be hot and steamy, and like yesterday, a lot of these storms, at least initially, aren't really going to cool things down. They're just going to make things steamier. So 93 degrees in Claremont today, 94 in Ocala, about 92 in St. Cloud, 87 at Cocoa Beach. A little cooler on the Atlantic side thanks to the sea breezes coming into the region. Temperatures today, by the way, are running anywhere from 2 to as many as 5 degrees warmer than normal, and that's resulting in a feels-like temperature approaching 105 degrees in some communities. Now, we've got a little bit of Saharan dust lingering still across North Florida, but the flow is coming in from South Florida, and that's where skies are clear. So we're not going to have quite the influence of all that dust around. In fact, it should get kicked up into Georgia and the Carolinas, but there's more of that where it came from across the Atlantic and into Africa. So we're going to have various episodes of Saharan dust straight through the end of this month and probably into the month of July. Typically, the dust tamps down by August. So let's talk about the forecast. 7-day forecast. 60% chance of rain. Likely rain chances probably north of that at this point through the day today, and that'll be the case through tomorrow and Thursday. Each day will have a similar setup with sea breeze-driven thunderstorms. Rain chances may ease back just a hair this weekend, but still enough where you'll make sure if you have any outdoor plans on the boat, going to the beach, you keep a close eye on those clouds and look for a darkening in the skies to figure out if it's going to rain. Of course, the free Fox 35 Storm Team app is a friend. It has a free radar. It'll let you know when the storms are heading your way. So, Garrett, we will be watching out for these storms. We're not calling today an impact day. We're not calling it a storm alert day. It's a pretty run-of-the-mill day today as far as summertime rainy season storms go. But it will be a different day than yesterday with a more widespread occurrence of rain that's pretty welcome for a lot of communities as well, because we're still technically right now in a moderate drought across much of the area. So this is what we need. It's just going to come at a slight inconvenience for potentially that concert tonight with Post Malone and Jelly Roll.
Well, and you know what? In the rain, outdoor concerts can go on, but when you're talking about the lightning, some of those other things, you know, you can't. So let's cross our fingers that all those folks filling up Camping World Stadium for that are able to enjoy the show.
Absolutely. I guess it's always a risk in June to have an outdoor concert in the
Yeah.
evening, but it can be rewarding. You can get some cooler breezes, and if that rain kicks out of here early, it might be a really nice event.
Hey, good point there. Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Brooks Garner, we appreciate you joining us.
You got it. My pleasure as always, Garrett.
And here's another live look right now at Camping World Stadium, hoping everything goes off without a hitch for those fans tonight. Live look right now at Daytona Beach from our Hard Rock Hotel camera along the Atlantic coast of Florida. See some folks out there. It is summertime. It is also hurricane season, and this year, for the first time, forecasters with the National Hurricane Center are going to use artificial intelligence to help track storms. Now, this technology will not be part of the official consensus models that we see, but it is expected to enhance the accuracy and also the efficiency of hurricane predictions. NHC Deputy Director Jamie Rome was on Good Day Orlando this morning to talk about it.
So let's talk about how AI could potentially help. What are some of the ideas that you have for how it could improve accuracy?
Well, what's unique about AI is it can look back at the past performance of modeling and modeling approaches and try to correct, from past mistakes. And this has the ability to not only make forecasting techniques more accurate, but to increase the speed at which we can upgrade the models and bring better forecasts to the public.
So let's talk about, some of the past storms that we've seen, especially over the last couple of years. They seem to, a lot of them like to take that same path, right? It goes up right through the Gulf and sort of aims at the Panhandle or the Big Bend area. But it's always that little bobble, Jamie, right? It's like, oh, it just bobbled a little bit this way or a little bit that way. And really that bobble is what makes the biggest difference.
Yeah, and I mean, this is why we stress so much for people not to be so focused on the exact track and to not to be sort of locked in on any individual model, because these tiny little changes in the track can make huge differences in what you at home experience, whether you get damaging winds, whether you lose power, etc. And what we hope with these newer AI approaches is that we're going to be able to start pinning down that turn earlier, with more lead time and more precision.
What about concerns that you might have, Jamie? Obviously, people like their jobs. They want to keep their jobs. And I think we're all a little nervous about AI and what that could mean for the future of the job market.
Well, I can assure you that our human forecasters are very much in control of the forecast and will remain. They will have a pivotal function in the forecast for the foreseeable future. These tools are here to assist them and help make them more efficient so that they can scale up and do other things such as communication of the impacts.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday morning live on Fox Local and on YouTube. Apologize for the technical issues we had there right before we went to break. Now this morning, Governor Ron DeSantis held a cabinet meeting with his fellow constitutional officers in Tallahassee. They did a couple of things, commemorating the Florida Forest Service's response to a massive wildfire in South Florida back in March. You may remember that. The governor also talked about the push to end property taxes. He talked about state budget negotiations, which we know are ongoing right now in Tallahassee. He also talked about illegal immigration enforcement policies, and we also heard him weigh in on the anti-ICE protests going on in California. Here's some of that cabinet meeting from a little bit ago in Tallahassee.
Today, I'm honored to recognize the extraordinary service of the Florida Forest Service staff who responded to the 344 fire in Miami-Dade County this past March. What began as a small 7-acre wildfire on March 12th quickly escalated into a major incident. Due to drought condition, gusty winds, and volatile fuels, the fire quickly spread across nearly 27,000 acres. The fire also caused intermittent road closures of U.S. Highway 1 and Card Sound Road in and out of the Florida Keys. Our Florida Forest Service personnel, in partnership with Miami-Dade Fire Rescue, the U.S. Forest Service, and others, responded immediately. They worked in dangerous and difficult conditions, including swampy terrain that made heavy equipment nearly useless. They adapted quickly, shifting to air support, conducting more than 1,400 helicopter water drops, and deploying large air tankers to contain the fire and protect critical infrastructure. Thanks to their skill and determination, there was no loss of life or property. The Everglades District and their fellow Florida Forest Service teammates exemplify the very best of public service. Today, we have here with us Armando Nodal, Senior Forest Ranger, Pete Donahue, Senior Forest Ranger, John Rollerson, Forest Protection Chief, Bryce Thomas, Assistant Forest Protection Chief, Sam Leneve, Assistant Director of Forestry, and Jen Hart, the Chief of Field Operations. I am proud to introduce this resolution, Governor, recognizing their bravery and the commitment to safety of Floridians. And with that, I move to adopt this resolution.
I second the motion. Hearing no objection, the motion carries. Thank you so much for your service. We appreciate it.
The department has one item on today's agenda. The department is requesting approval to publish notice of proposed rules for rules relating to property tax oversight and the Child Support Enforcement Program. The proposed general tax rules have been withdrawn while we wait to see the changes included in this year's tax package. Most of these rules are related to the implementation of tax legislation as well as the implementation of Amendment 5, which established an annual adjustment to the second homestead exemption based on positive inflation growth. Other changes update forms, clarify existing rule language, and repeals obsolete provisions. Recommend approval.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, and I would just say, while this homestead exemption and making sure that it increases commensurate with the consumer price index is good, it's inadequate, and we need to do a lot more. We're working on, as you mentioned, we don't have a tax package yet. We're here in the second week of June. That's usually done a long time ago. I know when Commissioner Simpson was Senate President, we got things done on time, and it just is what it is, right? So we should have that, and there's a lot of, it's not a mystery as to why it's taken so long, but we need to do more. We need people to actually own their property. It's not something that can just simply be done by legislation. It is going to require a ballot initiative, and I'm going to be leading the charge to be able to get that done for the people of this state, because it's pinching a lot of people. And so I appreciate this. I think it'll be marginally helpful, but it isn't enough for what we need. But I do move to approve this. Is there a second? Okay, no objection. The motion carries. Thank you so much. FDLE, Commissioner Mark Glass. Before you get into your items, I just want to reiterate that you have this movement around the country where these groups, I think they're funded by people like Soros, where they want to dox people enforcing immigration law and basically try to incite attacks on them just for simply doing their job. I've directed FDLE and other state agencies to have zero tolerance for that. I know that, Commissioner, you're on the ball on that, but that isn't going to fly in Florida. This is not Los Angeles. This is the free state of Florida. So we respect the law. We respect the people that are executing the law. You know, if you don't like the laws, then vote for people to change the laws. You don't have the right to just simply opt out of federal immigration law. And I think what's happened in California is they were a sanctuary state. They've taken the position really uninterrupted for many, many years that they can just ignore the law. They don't have to cooperate. Well, now you have the law being applied. And honestly, I think in the initial stuff that was done, this was ICE going after people that were on felony warrants that had done things that are really, really bad. And yet they're out there burning things down, massive looting last night. I'm seeing these stores being looted. That doesn't fly in Florida at all. So we did do the anti-riot legislation many years ago. I know Commissioner Simpson, helped pass that when he was the Senate president. And that's really, really positive. But we are very much leaning in if there's any issues. They said there was some protest and people in Florida are just holding signs. They're saying whatever. And look, I may disagree, but that's fine. You're on the sidewalk holding signs. The minute you cross into attacking law enforcement, any type of rioting, any type of vandalism, looting, just be prepared to have the law come down on you. And we will make an example of you. You can guarantee it. So I appreciate what you guys have done in that regard. And the larger issue of Florida's leading the nation on a state basis in immigration enforcement. We have, if you look at the total number of agreements with law enforcement agencies around the country with DHS, we have like half of them are in our state. And we're going to continue to move the needle there. But whether it's someone working for DHS, whether it's someone working for FDLE, whether it's someone working for a sheriff's department, a police department, they're doing their job and they're following the law. And if you're going to take the law into your own hands and you're going to try to threaten them or to attack them, you are crossing a very serious line. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. And the law enforcement community in the state of Florida is strong, sir. And under your leadership, we really appreciate the support you've been able to give us over the years. So this morning, members in Cabinet, the department has two agenda items. First, the 2025 Florida Law Enforcement Hall of Fame nominees. The Hall of Fame was created in 2014 to recognize and honor Florida law enforcement officers. Nominations are accepted annually from the Fraternal Order of Police, the Florida Sheriffs, Florida Police Chiefs, Police Benevolent, State Law Enforcement Chiefs, associations. A representative from each group serves on the selection committee. In your packet, you'll see the following 5 nominees are submitted for consideration by the Governor and Cabinet. Kenneth R. Albano, Chief of Police for Temple Terrace PD. Jerry L. Bryan, former Colonel of the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. William Bill O. Farmer, Jr., former Sheriff of Sumter County. Charles E. Nanny, former Assistant Chief of South Miami PD. And Stephen Stepp, former Chief of Police of Palm Beach Gardens PD. Your materials included a summary of their accomplishments and nominations forms, and your officers will receive an invitation to the induction ceremony, which will be held Saturday, September 27 at FDLE headquarters for your approval.
We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus. When we come back, we'll get you inside that Senate hearing talking about the impact of the federal government's border policy and what that means for international sporting events. So keep it right here on Fox 35 News Plus, live on Fox Local and on YouTube.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday morning live on Fox Local and on YouTube. This morning, the U.S. Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Oversight Subcommittee held a meeting to talk about the impact of the federal government's border policies when it comes to international sporting events. So we're talking about the Olympics in 2028. We're talking about the FIFA World Cup, World Baseball Classic, many of these being held in Los Angeles, where these anti-ICE protests are currently going on. It's also some of the current policies within the Trump administration causing some concern within some of these international athletic organizations. Florida's Senator Ashley Moody was in this hearing as a member of this subcommittee, and she asked specifically about security threats to major sporting events. Also talked about anti-ICE protests in Los Angeles, and also spectators getting around security personnel, specifically at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. Here's some of that exchange in this hearing earlier this morning.
You know, I spent nearly 15 years as a bomb technician in the Army, so there's not a whole lot that gets me nervous. But I think, you know, the asymmetric threats that, you know, were just talked about is a concern. But, you know, from my perspective as the OCOG leading the organization, when I think about the magnitude of bringing 15 million people into Southern California, Oklahoma City, and across the nation as we hit all 50 states in our torch relay, and the logistics that goes with that, and the security planning and the security apparatus that is behind all of those are the things that really I think are top of mind for me, that I will say keep me up at night. It is really thinking about and trying to orchestrate and coordinate the magnitude of the undertaking.
Senator, if I could just add, in addition to actually making it safe and secure, it's important that the travelers perceive its safety and secure, and they can trust and rely on that and want to come to this country.
Okay. And actually, I see you. Back to the chair.
Can do. Senator Moody.
Thank you, Chair, Ranking Member. An incredibly important hearing. Thank you for taking the time to lead this hearing this morning. From the state of Florida, you can imagine this is of great interest to us. We host numerous international and national sporting events. I think during my time as Attorney General in Florida, we hosted back-to-back Super Bowls. Security of our large events, sporting events in particular, is of utmost importance to us, especially since we are also a state committed to law and order and consistently striving to be the example of how you can maintain a safe community and state for the citizens that we've pledged to do and as a government. General, thank you for your service to our nation. I was just at West Point watching the graduation a couple of weeks ago. The oldest boy in our family just graduated from there, and I'm always mindful of the greatness of this nation rests on the backs of so many that served us, and we are grateful to you. There have been traditional security threats associated with these large-scale events, from checkpoints, human trafficking even. We would often, in preparation as Attorney General, would host large-scale human trafficking trainings for law enforcement, but not just law enforcement, our other stakeholders, the hospitality industry, All of these things are necessary. I think what is unique now, and we're watching it on TV right as we speak, is the necessity of having strong leadership, both state and local, in cooperation with federal authorities to maintain law and order. And, I'm hoping in the future that international and national events take into consideration what kind of leadership is offered at the state level, because you can see when you have weak leadership in terms of safety and security and law and order, you often see civil unrest that could have been avoided. And you're going to have your work cut out for you in LA. I mean, that's just a fact. And we're watching it play out right now. In fact, in Florida, we have strong concerns because in 2024, we had security breaches at the Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, Florida, and that's going to be where 8 FIFA World Cup matches, including the opening match, and 7 FIFA World Cup matches, including the bronze final match, will be played. We saw spectators able to get around gates and hop fences and climb through ventilation systems to avoid security personnel. And all of that takes the cooperation of not just federal authorities and on-site, but leading up to the events, local authorities working and providing intel to make sure this kind of things don't happen. So I'm watching what's playing out right now in LA. We talked about what keeps you up at night. What keeps me up at night is this is happening in our country. And I fear, if in LA specifically, that you're going to have your work cut out for you and have to bring to bear all of the talents and experiences you used in the military, but all of your relationships working with state and locals. And hopefully they'll come around to their senses by then and work with the federal government to ensure security. And I wish you well with that. That is a challenge.
That's Senator Ashley Moody of Florida speaking in that hearing just a little bit ago, asking questions and talking. You heard her mention some of those previous security incidents at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. We're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
And welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday morning, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. Lawmakers, officials, and advocates, they all met last week on Capitol Hill for a part of a conversation that was hosted by Florida Congresswoman Laurel Lee that was looking at legal aid and legal needs that come up before, during, and after natural disasters. We know we are in the start of hurricane season. We certainly hope that we don't see major impacts this season, but certainly something that you have to prepare for. So joining us live now via Zoom to talk about what those legal needs are, what can be done, is Paul Ferreira, who is a managing attorney of the Disaster Legal Services Unit with the Community Legal Services. And Paul, really appreciate you joining us this morning here on Fox 35 News Plus.
Thank you, sir.
Paul, so as I mentioned there, we are in hurricane season. Natural disasters, unfortunately, something that we do know well here in Florida. So if you could talk to us about some of the legal needs that come up during natural disasters.
Well, typically speaking, in Central Florida, when there is a disaster, like we had 3 of them last season, the legal needs are help with FEMA claims. A lot of initial claims get denied. People don't know the appeals process or unfamiliar with it. We will assist them with that. Landlord-tenant issues arise. My apartment or my rental is damaged, or I can't live in it. Do I still have to pay rent, or what do I have to do to alert the landlord that we need repairs or that I can't live in the place anymore? There are homeowners insurance issues that arise. Sometimes, claims are denied, or the insured, our client, doesn't receive what they think they should get, so we help them through that process. Flood insurance claims, it's a separate policy from home insurance. We assist them with those. If they have it, we'll explain the process to them and help them with those. Contractors issues. Hey, I paid somebody to show up and help me clean up the place or do repairs. I gave them a deposit and never saw them again. We'll help them with that type of legal aid. Assistance, public benefits. A lot of times after a disaster, there will, the state government will open up certain public benefits, like a DSNAP program that didn't exist before, or wasn't operating before the disaster. People don't know about it. Even if they qualify, we'll help assist them get those resources. A lot of times we get clients that have other issues bundled up with their legal issues, and we'll refer them to other resources, other nonprofits, volunteer organizations that are active after disasters. We'll give them a referral to help them with housing, repairs, cleanup, things like that. Even though those may not be typically legal issues, we'll refer them to other people who can help them.
A wide range of things that can certainly come up during these and after these natural disasters. We know one challenge that can often exacerbate these other things is lost documents, things that people may not have or may not have access to. How does that kind of throw a wrench in things?
Yeah, so up until recently, up until recent disasters, people couldn't make claim on properties that they didn't own. So you get these especially here in Florida, you get these 3rd or 4th generation homes. Grandma and grandpa either built it or bought it, passed it down to their children, and then passed it down to the grandchildren. You've got 3 generations. There's a storm. They go to make a FEMA claim, and the property's still in the grandparents' name. The deed was never updated. So that could be an issue. It's fixable, but it takes time, and people don't get the assistance or relief as quickly as they would like to get it. So that's something to look at before the disaster. Yeah, and then just documents getting wet, destroyed, paper documents, deeds, wills, all of that. There are ways that they can be replaced if they were stored electronically before that, if there were other copies, but we could help recreate those. If everybody's still available, we can help recreate those documents. Recommend that people waterproof their documents prior to a storm and keep them in a place that they can grab it and take it along with their other stuff if they have to evacuate.
So waterproofing documents, certainly an important step. Anything else that folks should do now when we're talking about this kind of early part of hurricane season before things really ramp up that might help if they need y'all's assistance later on?
Yeah, I would review insurance policies with your agents to make sure you understand exactly what you're covered for. A lot of people, sometimes, unfortunately, home insurance in Florida is expensive. People cut corners, and then they get caught a little bit off guard when a disaster comes and they find out that they don't have the coverage that they thought they did or that they needed. So reviewing coverages, making sure your legal documents, your birth certificates, your driver's licenses are handy and available or stored somewhere electronically so that you can replace them quickly. A lot of people don't think about pet documents, vaccinations, any documents you may, medical records. If you have to evacuate, some facilities will provide, resources to home your pet, but the pets need to be vaccinated. And if you can't prove that, they may not allow you to stay there. So keep your pet's documents available for you to take with you if you need them. If you can afford a fireproof safe, or something that's fireproof, waterproof, and put those documents in there, so even if they stay behind, you might be able to find them and recover them from the wreckage. Things like that. If you have deeds, review your deeds, make sure they're in your name. There's nothing that would block you from making an insurance claim or a FEMA claim because you don't have a copy of a deed with your name on it.
Paul, what's the bottom line that you want people to know about some of these legal needs that come up and how organizations like Community Legal Services can help?
Well, we're present throughout the 12 counties that make up, Central Florida. We're at outreach events. We're there we hold clinics to discuss these issues before and after a storm. So before, you want to prepare by having your legal documents secure. Afterwards, give us a call. We will, if you qualify, we will provide legal services to you at no cost. But don't worry about whether you qualify or not. Just give us a call, reach out to us, and we will let you know whether you qualify or not. If you have any doubts, just give us a call.
All right. Paul Ferreira, managing attorney with the Disaster Legal Services Unit with Community Legal Services. Really appreciate you joining us this morning. Helpful information here on Fox 35 News Plus.
Thank you, sir.
We're going to take a break and we'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday morning live on Fox Local and on YouTube. It was a dominant win last night for the Florida Panthers in Game 3 of the NHL Stanley Cup Finals. They played that game down in Sunrise, Florida, they beat the Edmonton Oilers 6-1. It was the Panthers that we have seen through much of the playoffs with that high-octane offense. They now have taken a 2-1 series lead ahead of Game for Thursday, also in Sunrise. Here's what some of the players had to say last night after the big win.
But it was a great, great first 40. I mean, even in the third, we played, super well and super, disciplined, just like a veteran older team who's been here. This is our third time at it. We just, it's a series, and you got to stick up for each other, but got to be smart too. So we were, thought it was great that guys are sticking up for each other, and at the end of the day, it's just a big win, and it's just one game.
So was it about imposing your will in this game? This team imposing your will on home ice coming out?
Yeah, I don't know. We just want to protect home ice and play well in front of our fans, and it feels like we've been on the road all playoffs, which we have been. So it's nice to come back here and play well in front of our fans. They deserve it.
6 different goal scorers tonight. What can you say about the balanced effort? 6 different goal scorers.
Yeah, everybody thought everybody had a great game. Played simple, hard, fast, physical, and supported each other and up and down the ice. And when we do that, it makes it easier on each other.
Was it a typical 7-minute goal, like going with 2 big body checks before being able of getting on a breakaway?
Yeah, I came on late. I saw the one great hit, and then I think Lusty blocked the shot, which sprung Benny, and then an unreal move. Just all in all, it was a really good shift by those two especially, and I had the best seat in the house for the goal. It was awesome.
Do you think you forced them to lose their composure? Is that one of the things?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we just went out there, played hockey. We're physical when we needed to be, supported pucks. We talked about it in the third. If you have to take a punch, take a punch. If you have to take a cross check, take a cross check. Spear, slash in the face, whatever the case is. You've got to take it. And we spent the whole period on the power, and we're able to put in a couple insurance ones. But when the time needed, where we needed to stick up for each other, it was there. But we just played a really smart game, and that's really it.
Did you think you frustrated them what happened in the third period?
No, I don't think so. We just, like I just said, played our game, our style, stuck up for each other when needed to. But like I just said, we talk about it. If you have to take a punch in the face, you got to do it. Cross check, slash in the face, whatever the case is. We just, it's a series. You got to stick up for each other. But it's nice on the power play too.
And that's your brand. That's the Panthers brand. You don't want to get a track meet with them.
No, I don't think anybody does. There's no need for 4-on-4 or matching stuff, and we're not gonna scare them by doing something at the end of the game or whatever. It's a series. You stick up for each other, and just in a game like that, it's out of reach. Just be smart. We need guys for the next game, and there's no need to risk anything, and if they want to do it, they can, but just stick up for each other.
Yeah, it was tight game, definitely. After first period, half of the second, so it's still even the goals. They got good team, they got good offense, good defense. So it's a battle.
Sergey, when they're killing penalties early like that, and you're seeing a lot of pucks early, what does that do for yourself and settling into the game?
Yeah, you're trying to build the moment and trying to stay in the moment, and help the guys to win the moment.
So after the Oilers got 8 goals in the first 2 games, what do you think changed tonight that you guys were able to shut them down as well as you did?
They still made a good plays. They played great in their home. They play great here. So it's a good team, and we had the good PK. We had the good sticks. Guys played hard. Played our hockey.
Sergey, what about your play? 84 saves in the first 2 games, another 32 tonight. Where are you at right now? You in that zone?
We are tracking breaking news here on Fox 35 News Plus. Just into our newsroom, the state attorney, William Shiner, saying that in a letter that you are looking at right now, this letter sent to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, calling the use of deadly force by Titusville police officer, quote, lawful and justified, when they shot and killed Tremaria Charles back in February. Here is a picture of Tremaria Charles. We've been following this story for a while now. According to the letter and the findings from the state attorney's office, they are saying that Charles started a confrontation with a police officer, then picked up a gun that he had dropped, then ran armed toward another officer and a neighboring home before the first officer ended up unholstering his weapon, chasing him, firing the first shots at him. Titusville police saying they had gone to the house on Robbins Avenue initially after receiving reports from frightened neighbors over several days about shots fired there. So again, this is the letter. We have learned that the officer who fired shots in this incident has been cleared. It talks about the review of body camera video, which we know, and some other video elements as well, not just the body camera. But we know family members had been pushing for the release of this body camera video, trying to get some more answers in this. We are still hoping to obtain that. I know the Titusville police officer or police breaking news this morning here on Fox 35 News Plus as the state attorney calling it a lawful use of deadly force in that shooting back in February. Well, that is going to do it for us here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we are going to stay with you here as we expect Governor Ron DeSantis to speak shortly in Jacksonville. This is at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement office in Jacksonville. Governor DeSantis expected to hold a news conference there. We don't know what exactly it was about. You see the podium with some duct tape up there where they attach the placard that normally gives us some sort of indication in the moments before he speaks what his topic might be. But you see the U.S. flags, the Florida flags as well, with that Florida Department of Law Enforcement background. This office, again, in Jacksonville. Governor DeSantis expected to speak shortly. This news conference is scheduled for noon. As you know, if you watch us here on Fox 35 News Plus often, many of those events with the governor run behind. But we are going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, and then when we come back, we will just leave this shot up while we wait on the governor to begin speaking any minute now. So keep it here on Fox 35 News Plus, on Fox Local, and on YouTube. We'll be right back with more after this.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Garrett Weimer with you here. Appreciate you joining us live on Fox Local and on YouTube. We are expecting Governor Ron DeSantis to speak any minute now. This is at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement in Jacksonville. Governor expected to speak there, have a news conference that was scheduled to begin at noon. So any minute now, we do expect to see and hear from the governor. So in the meantime, we're going to leave this shot up for you here on Fox 35 News Plus and carry that news conference for you live as soon as it begins. So thanks for joining us.
Good morning, everybody. Sorry, I just want to make those announcements one more time since we had some more people flow in. If everybody wouldn't mind, please silence your cell phones so we could avoid any disturbances during the press conference. And then when the governor moves over here to sign the bill, we just ask you don't put your phones high up in the air or stand up or anything. And then at the end, if the governor does take questions, that part is for the media only, so no standing up and shouting out any questions. And we will get started in a few minutes. Thank you.
good afternoon. Great to be back in Jacksonville. I want to thank FDLE for hosting us here. We've got a really star-studded crew with us. FDLE Commissioner Mark Glass. We were in Tallahassee doing a cabinet meeting earlier today, and now we're here in Jacksonville. We've got Sheriff T.K. Waters. We've got Representatives Plakin, Jacques, Kendall, Michael from the Florida House of Representatives, and we have our Senator, my friend Clay Yarborough. And then we're going to hear from Brooke Curry, Florida State University student, and is going to talk about her experience and some of the legislation that we're doing today. So we've got a number of bills that we're going to sign, and the theme of today is law and order. That's kind of been the theme of the state of Florida, at least since I've been around, because we've had to deal with a lot of, I would say, pathology around the United States of America. And, you know, my job is to protect you from those things so that those don't come into here. We saw it in the summer of 2020, massive looting, massive rioting in Minneapolis, in places like LA, New York City. It was a total disaster. We in Florida said we are not going to allow that to happen. We're going to stand by law enforcement. And so, you know, you didn't see what you saw there, but we also knew that it's fine to have to deal with these things, but you don't want to just kind of play whack-a-mole. And if this is going to be something people are going to try, we want to make sure that our folks are better protected. So shortly thereafter, I signed the anti-riot legislation, which said very simply, if you riot, if you loot, if you engage in mob violence, you are going to be held accountable in the state of Florida. We are not going to sit by and let people take pot shots at the men and women of law enforcement. And there's a very clear distinction between somebody going out there and protesting something peacefully and crossing that line to harming people in uniform, looting stores, burning buildings, burning cars. And we've drawn that line very clearly. Remember, when you had the Hamas demonstrations that were happening, you know, as much as I totally disagreed with what they were saying, you know, if you're going to go out and wave that, I think it's bad. But I also think if you're peaceful, but you know, they were commandeering Columbia University. They tried to do that in Florida. They tried to take over a street in Miami, and the Miami police kicked them off in 13 minutes. That was a record at the time. Until the next week, they tried to do it in Central Florida, and Florida Highway Patrol kicked them off in 11 minutes. This is a big group of Hamas people, and they kicked them off very quickly. So we have zero tolerance for that, especially obstructing traffic. And that's the thing. You see what's happening in Los Angeles right now. You have federal law enforcement enforcing the law, which they're not only supposed to do, they took an oath to do. That's what is on the books. And you got people there that are acting like the law doesn't apply to them. So you come from a foreign country illegally into our country, you burn the American flag in protest of them trying to send you back to the country whose flag you're waving. This is such a farce. This is political. This is very ideological. But what's going on there? So you see that, and you see them burn stores. I mean, they looted. I mean, I'm watching these things. They're looting Foot Locker, the Apple Store, all this stuff, burning cars, doing all this. That would never fly in the state of Florida, not for 1 minute. You'd end up in the slammer very quickly. So you have those, and you see that what's going on. We are not going to allow that to happen in Florida. I know people are talking about, hey, there's going to be demonstrations around the country, and the line's very clear. Everybody, every police department, every sheriff's department, all state agencies know the line's clear. Peacefully talking about what you want to do or what you want to see, or having any type of those discussions is fine. But the minute that crosses the line, we are not going to just sit idly by and let the inmates run the asylum. But one of the things they're doing in LA that, because you focus on and this is the same thing as 2020. You remember, you'd have the CNN reporter in Minneapolis. Behind him would be like the city engulfed in flames, and he said, this is a mostly peaceful protest. And you're just thinking to yourself, really? And so they're trying to say the same thing. Oh, it's, it's peaceful. It's not that. Well, I'm seeing the stores being looted. I'm seeing fires. I'm seeing all this. I'm seeing law enforcement targeted. But one of the things that they're doing that it seems like it's even unremarked because they're doing all these other things, they are commandeering streets and doing things like that. I mean, you can apply to like get a permit to use a street. I mean, that does happen, but they're just commandeering streets. And, that really, I think, honks a lot of people off because it's like it's already bad traffic in LA, horrible traffic. You have people that need to get their kids to school or get them to summer camp. You got people that may have medical needs. You have all these different things. And what? Some of these streets are just shut down because you have all these people that are complaining. That's wrong. And so in Florida, the streets, do not even try to shut down the streets. We're going to make sure that you don't do that. So I just look at seeing what's going over there. They've developed a sense of entitlement that the law doesn't apply to them with respect to immigration because California is a sanctuary state, and so they think that they can just kind of do this and ignore the law. That doesn't work, and so what the Trump administration's doing to enforce the law, not only have a right to do it, they have a duty to do it. That's why you get elected. That's why you take an oath to do. So I see the mayor, I see the governor making excuses for the people that are causing, all the havoc. And that's not the way we roll here. So we're committed. I don't think there's a single law enforcement agency that's not committed. We also have certain duties that we've imposed through Florida state law because I called a special session and we worked through that. All state and local law enforcement agencies are required to participate with ICE for immigration enforcement. And that's the only way you're ever going to do this and do this well. And so there's a question, occasionally you'll see like a sheriff pop off, like not TK, but oh, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Really? Okay. Trust me, you're going to follow the law or you'll be out of a job. That's what's going to happen. And that's what we're going to do in the state of Florida. Now, one of the things we focused on a lot, and we've had to deal with of course, the overall unrest that the country's seen and make sure that Florida is a refuge from that. But we've also seen over many years children being left unprotected in some of these jurisdictions. And we've done more in the state of Florida to protect the innocence of our kids than any state in these United States. And I'm proud that we have done that. You remember a few years back, we signed the Parental Rights and Education Bill, making sure that you can send your kids to school without them being taught that they were born in the wrong body or that their gender is a choice. That is not acceptable, and that doesn't happen in the state of Florida. And if they try to do it in violation of the law, we now have an Office of Parental Rights in the Attorney General's office where you can submit and then they can take action to make sure Florida law is being abided by. We've also signed a series of bills to protect children from indecent exposure in public venues. Some of these sexually explicit things that they're trying to do with these kids, you have like 10-year-old kids. No, that's not appropriate. And we've put a stop to that in the state of Florida. We've also been very concerned with social media and what happens with our youth with social media. So we signed legislation last year which basically put some teeth into the federal law, which already said that you had to be over 14 to get your own account. But basically, if you're 15 and under, you need parent permission to get it if you're 14 and 15, and then under 14, you can't get your own account. Now, parents can let their kids use their accounts, whatever. We're not going to police that. But what we're doing is we're telling the social media companies, don't issue an account unless they're a certain age with parent permission or above that age. And if not, you'll face consequences. And I think the reason why we've had to do that is because it used to be growing up, there would be different types of threats to the innocence of youth. You'd be out playing, some predator comes up in a van, tries to entice kids in. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, it still does. But now with these devices, these predators can get into your home. Kids play video games, these guys can go in and entice them. So the risks are so much more than they were, say, when I was growing up. as a kid. And parents want to be able to protect their kids, and there are things that we've been able to do to be able to help that. But make no mistake, these sexual predators will stop at nothing to be able to harm kids. And when you have a kid that is abused by these sexual predators, the abuse doesn't stop at that minute, the minute it ends. It's a lifelong scar. It's something that they have to cope with for the rest of their lives, and it really robs our kids of their innocence. And so we are very much strong and holding the line on that. I signed legislation last year to protect children from adult groomers attempting to prey on their innocence. This prohibited an adult from engaging in a pattern of communication to a minor that includes explicit and detailed verbal descriptions of sexual activity, because that's a lot of how these guys operate. They try to earn trust, and then they go into these areas, these forbidden areas. We've also increased penalties for child exploitation crimes, such as promoting sexual performances or possessing child pornography. We've also established a grant program within FDLE to create online sting operations to target sexual predators, and we created stricter guidelines for sexual offender registration. So we've done a lot, but today we're going to do more. So I'm going to sign a series of bills that are going to make Florida remain as the #1 state in the country for the protection of our kids. First, HB 777 strengthens Florida's laws against luring or enticing children by expanding the definition of the crime, increasing penalties, and eliminating certain defenses based on a child's misrepresented or mistaken age. I'm also signing HB 1351, which strengthens registration, reporting, and verification requirements for sexual predators and offenders in Florida. The bill also enhances accountability and improves law enforcement monitoring of offenders' location and employment activities. You know, some of these offenders, they exploit loopholes in the system to be able to set up shop in certain communities, acting like they're just visiting or going back. And so this plugs that loophole so that if they're going to spend time here in Jacksonville, you're going to know that they're spending time here, and they're going to have to report that so that you can protect your kids. Third, I'm signing Florida House Bill 1455, which provides mandatory minimum terms of imprisonment for specified sexual offenses when committed by registered sexual offenders or sexual predators. Let me tell you, just as somebody who has been involved in law enforcement as a prosecutor and, of course, is now the head of the executive branch in Florida, these offenders, sexual offenders, they are going to reoffend, right? So you can put them away for the maximum and say someone gets a 15-year sentence and they serve it and they come out. The chance of them reoffending is very, very high when you start talking about these sexual predators. And so you got to have a minimum amount of time that they're just taken off the streets. Ultimately, the registry, all these things, they're tools, but the only thing that really, really guarantees the safety of the children is to find every last daggum predator and put them in jail and get them off the street. That's what you need to do. Now, mandatory minimums, some people criticize because they say, well, you know, you could have too much for this. And, you know, the justice system is imperfect. I acknowledge that. But the reality is we have, unfortunately, some judges that just do not give the gravity of a sentence that warrants it when you're talking about abuse of minors. I mean, you will have some that will throw the book at them, then you'll have others where it's like a little bit more wishy-washy. So this ensures that there's a baseline level of accountability where you're holding these sexual predators accountable. And again, these are people that are already registered offenders, and then they're reoffending in the community. You know, I think these sexual predators, I mean, remember, I signed the legislation to reinstitute the death penalty for pedophiles. I think that that's appropriate when you're doing some of this stuff. But at a minimum, they need to be taken off the street. You shouldn't even be in a position where you're having to monitor their every move and just hoping that somehow they're going to reform themselves, because we know that the chance of that happening is not very good. We also have on the docket SB 1804, which establishes capital human trafficking of vulnerable persons for sexual exploitation as a new capital felony offense. And so it's kind of piggybacks on what we did on the child sex abuse, but brings that into the human trafficking realm, which is a huge, huge problem in the world, and certainly in the United States of America. So I'm glad that we are doing really significant efforts to continue to fight human trafficking. Now, we also have with us today, as I mentioned, Brooke Curry, a Jacksonville teenager whose personal experience with AI-generated explicit imagery catalyzed legislative action in Florida this session. And accordingly, I'm going to be signing HB 1161, Brooke's Law, to strengthen protections for individuals whose images are used in non-consensual, sexually explicit, deep fake content by requiring covered online platforms to implement a notice and removal system. So these are people that are manipulating this stuff, but they can do it so well that a lot of people think that this is authentic, and just think of what that does as somebody who gets victimized by this. And so Florida law does not currently provide a mechanism by which victims can request the removal of these altered depictions without consent. So Brooke's Law will protect victims of digital sexual abuse by ensuring victims of deep fake exploitation have a clear, enforceable process to remove damaging material. Also requires covered platforms such as websites and online services to remove altered sexual depictions and copies of such depictions from their platform upon request of the victim within 48 hours. It also prevents legal overreach by maintaining platform immunity for good faith compliance, avoiding the chilling effects on speech or over moderation. And then finally, the bill gives platforms room to design their own processes while enforcing a baseline level of accountability. I want to thank Brooke for her courage to come forward and to lead this effort. I think it's really important, and it also raises the issue of this whole artificial intelligence. You know, they're talking about in Washington banning states from being able to regulate it at all for the next 10 years. And as governor, I want to be able to provide protections for you working with the legislature if that's warranted. This stuff is progressing so quickly, but you will absolutely get to a point where they can just take you, they can put words in your mouth and do a video, and you're basically saying something that's the opposite of what you actually believe, and they can make you do, they can have you depict you doing awful things. That's not the world that we want to live in, and so I think that the states need to be able to retain their ability to handle the emerging AI issues. You know, we're not going to run away from it. We know it's going to be a part of military operations. It's going to be a part of a lot of things. Although I will say this, you know, they talk about the power of it, and there's a lot of things that are powerful about it, but there's also a lack of common sense in some of these AI things. I mean, like, sometimes they just don't, they can't reason like a human being does, and so there's not only dangers with how good it can be, but there's also dangers by employing it without recognizing some of the limitations and the flaws that it has, because I've seen that firsthand, and I've had to go in and fight with like Grok or some of these and say, wait a minute, that's wrong. Oh yeah, you're right, I saw that. And then like they admit they were wrong, but I'm like, why were you wrong the first time? So this is a really significant issue of all the different things. I mean, how people's privacy is going to be respected or not, how it's going to affect the economy, and what types of jobs are going to be available to people. These are really, it's maybe the most fundamental issue that we're going to confront over the next many, many years. And I just think you as Floridians should have the right to be able to petition your policymakers to provide protections for you if that's something that you think is right. They're trying to kneecap the states from being able to do that, and I do think that that's a mistake. Well, listen, we're going to sign all this stuff in a second, but before we do that, we're going to hear from Mark Glass, TK, we're going to hear from Brooke, and then we're going to hear from Rachel Plakin from the Florida House. So, Mark Glass.
And good morning, and thank you for coming to JROC, the Jacksonville Regional Operational Center for FDLE. And this is your FDLE, and you got to hear our great governor talk about the things the state of Florida is not going to put up with. And I'm going to tell you, it is great to work in my position and to let you know that FDLE has the ball. One thing we do is look out over the horizon, see what's coming at us, the changes in techniques, tactics, and procedures. And what we do, cyber is that battleground, that new battle space we all have to deal with. After is all the sex offender and sex predators that are out there playing, making our people in our state victims. And if you steal a child's innocence, that is the worst of evil to me. So we're going to come after you, and we're going to come after you hard with everything we have. So House Bill 1455 for the sexual offenses by repeat offenders. If you're hard-headed, we have a fix for that, and that's it. And we do appreciate y'all getting that across the line on 1455. Making that mandatory prison time, you heard the governor talk about, that's the only way you stop a lot of this, is you just don't have them out there in the middle with the rest of society. No more second chances. We give you one chance, you don't get corrected in the Department of Corrections, then you go out and do it again. Well, we're going to put you there for a little bit longer. Hopefully your hard head will get better out of that. Senate Bill 1804, capital human trafficking, the death penalty. I mean, I'm with him on that one. You, like I said, you're stealing a child's innocent, you're in human trafficking. It's just the worst of the worst. The worst of the worst. And what we ended up, it's just a despicable crime. And so, and thanks to Governor DeSantis for leading that charge for Floridians. Now, on human trafficking, I do want to say something there. If you see something, say something. You've heard that campaign. If you see something suspicious, report it. Knowing the signs of human trafficking can save lives. If you go to FDLE's website, if you go to JSO's website, they will help you, guide you through to look at the signs. Do not be afraid to report something if it seems out of the ordinary. Please say it, because there are people getting victimized and trafficked right in front of our faces, even at, whether it's the grocery store or just at a sports venue. Just pay attention to the signs and really do that. Call 911. Don't feel like you're bothering them. Call them, or you can reach out to the Florida Human Trafficking Hotline, which is 1-855-FLA-SAFE. That is 1-855-FLA-SAFE. And 1351, sir, I want to tell you thank you on this one, and representatives of the registration of sexual offenders and sexual predators. So the loopholes he was talking about, so there, you have to report even if you're self-employed. So you do not want somebody who's self-employed coming to your house to do a handyman special and everything. You don't know who they are because they didn't report their business online. So that's going to make it mandatory reporting, so that way you can screen who's coming to your house to actually work on your house, whether it be plumbing, whether it be roofing, or whatever you need to do there. So with all that, just in conclusion, Governor, thank you for your commitment to protecting Floridians. And at FDLE, we're protecting you, supporting, and delivering justice to these folks. And we cannot do it without our representatives and senators that are here sitting here with us today. And also we can't do it without our victims standing up and actually getting out there and having the great fight for us, and we do appreciate it. You don't know how much that strengthens me. I'm just telling you, that just strengthens us. I mean, Governor, thank you for your leadership, and you're tough on crime. Thank you.
So, Governor, thanks for having me here today. Thank you all for having me. It's an honor to be here today and with our governor, and local and state leaders for this important occasion in Florida, which gains several new means to combat exploitation of our children and other vulnerable citizens. As a father, grandfather, and a career police officer, I know that there is no more vital role for law enforcement than the protection of our kids. By their age and inherent dependency, children are vulnerable. Now more than ever, our children face dangers. They need and deserve the vigilance of the adults around them and the civil society. Here in Duval County, we believe in law and order, big time. Evidenced by our recent operation where we arrested 24 predators for trying to hook up with 13-year-old kids. And as the head of this agency at the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, I can promise you that this agency will always enforce the law and aggressively pursue those whose criminal actions harm our children and other vulnerable citizens. I'd like to publicly recognize Brooke Curry, for whom Brooks Law is named. Brooke is a resident of our county in my city. And her courage, strength of spirit, and the content of her character culminated in the passing of an important piece of legislation that bears her name. Brooke, our city is proud of you for transforming a painful life experience into the means to garner needed change. There are so many people in our future who will benefit from your vision and resolve. You are an inspiration to us all, and all of Jacksonville stands with you. And I'm sure everyone in the state, the great state of Florida, stands with you also. Today we have new proactive tools in our tool belt to
options. There are people who will stand with you, fight for you, and believe in you. I also want to recognize and thank First Lady Melania Trump for her leadership on this issue through the Take It Down Act. Her advocacy has helped shine a national spotlight on the importance of protecting victims of online exploitation. Her efforts have brought this conversation to dining tables, legislative chambers, and communities that need to hear it most. The journey to passing Brooks Law has not been easy. It's been painful. It's been personal, but it's also been powerful because together we've turned tragedy into a purpose, and together we've lit a path for others to walk, bravely and without shame. This is just the beginning. Our work continues. Awareness must grow. Protection must expand, and healing must remain at the center of everything we do. Thank you for all standing with me and with every survivor today and always. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Representative Rachel Plakin. I want to thank Brooke for sharing her story. It took a lot of courage to come here and speak before these folks, and we just really appreciate you so much. I'm the House sponsor of HB 777, and the Orange County Sheriff's Office came to me, and they told me that current law said that if a predator lures a child or tries to entice a child into a structure or a vehicle, it's a misdemeanor right now. If they try to lure them out, it's not even a crime. And as a mother, a mama bear, I was livid to hear that. And I said, I must run this bill. And so today, we are changing that. We're making it a felony. And I want to thank Governor DeSantis for taking a stand for Florida's children. And also, I would like to thank Senator Collins for being an extraordinary partner. God bless.
Okay. Number of them to do. Do we have any kids in the audience? Would you like, this is not permanent marker. Would you like one? There you go. I got another one if we've got any other. You know, when the kids got the permanent markers over the years, I mean, I get the complaints about them, you know, marking up everything. So we try to help out and do what we can here. Okay, so today is the 10th of June, am I right? Yep. So this is the registration of sexual predators and offenders. Who would like one from this? Anybody? Whose bill was this?
I'm good, but I'll take one.
Okay.
For the
Anyone else? Okay. Peanut gallery?
Yeah.
All right. So we've got that one. This is the previous sex offenders. Whose bill is this? Who did 1455? Any of you guys here or no? Okay. Over there? All right. All right. So we got that one. Okay. Here we go. There you go. Yeah. Anyone else? Lenny? Navy man? All right.
He's a wide receiver.
All right. HB 777. Anybody else want one on this one? Anyone back here? Okay. How many of you have already got one? All right, so we got that, and then this is the capital offense. I have one more non-permanent marker. You sure we don't have any other kids? Okay.
I'll take it for Gracie.
Sure. There you go. All right, I got two more. Anyone up here? Okay. All right, now what we're going to do is, you hold that one. You hold that one. I will hold these two, and then maybe Rachel hold that one up. Okay. Here we go. All right, well, I want to thank everybody for their hard work on this. I'm good, yeah, okay, yeah. Thanks for that. I think these are going to be meaningful. It continues our trend of standing up for children, throwing the book at sexual predators and offenders, and keeping our community safe. Okay, do we have any questions?
I'm John from News for Jackson. Do you think it's possible to get completely ahead of AI with something that's expanding the way that it is?
So I think the issue with AI is implicit in your question. We could have the perfect answer for AI right now. By the time a legislature does things, even if it takes like a month, there's already things. And so the rapid change that we do, it does make it more difficult. In terms of getting ahead, look, I think that what I would do, assuming we retain authority, is we're not going to be able to police every aspect of it, right? But there are going to be certain things where we're going to need to provide protections for people so that their lives aren't negatively impacted by the rise of AI. And I don't know that we're going to know every permutation of that because there's new things that get developed all the time. But as a kind of a national matter, it's a matter for the state, but it's really a national and even international issue is what role is AI going to play in terms of employment in the future? Now, when you have technologies that can displace jobs, but can also create jobs in other areas, AI, we'll see, right? But I do think it's a possibility that, we're looking at companies going so much in the direction of AI that they're not hiring as many people as they've needed to traditionally. So how do we prepare folks for that? So these are all things that are really fundamental questions. We should be able to, as states, retain our authority. And I know why some people want to do this and say 10 years you're not allowed to do anything is because they're worried about California and New York screwing it up, right? I mean, they're worried about them doing dumb things. I get that, but I can tell you what, one of the reasons Florida's been successful is because they've done a lot of dumb things and people have recognized Florida and people have moved businesses. They've invested in Florida as a result of that. So we've always had a healthy competition amongst the states. We're supposed to be laboratories of democracies. You can see who does it well, who doesn't. For example, on budget, these guys, we're June 10th. They don't have a budget. Our fiscal year ends at the end of the year. And I mean, hopefully that gets resolved this week. But if you look at Florida, we have millions of more residents in Florida than New York does, New York residents, and yet their budget is over twice the size of our state budget. Yet we have better services, better roads, higher performing education. And so where is this money going to? So people can see, hey, you can go to Florida with no income tax. You can go there with the #1 ranked public university system. In-state tuition is like $6,300. It hasn't budged 1 cent since I've been governor, and we're going to keep it that way. You can have a state dedicated to law and order, #1 in new business formations, all these things. Or you can pay hefty taxes. You can have weak on crime policies. You can have all those. And people make those judgments. And that's really been, I think, central to the federalism that we have in the United States of America. So to take that away from states is not something that I think is good policy. And they're also trying in Washington do other things. And this isn't as big of a deal in Florida, but in other parts of the country, Biden did this Green New Deal. So it's like trillions of dollars in subsidies that we shouldn't be spending at all. Like they should just reverse the entire Biden New Deal, Green New Deal. That would save money. That would allow you to be able to do whatever you wanted with immigration, all that stuff. It should all be wiped clean. But as it stands now, they have things. So they give people money to build these carbon sequestration pipelines because they say if we put carbon in the pipelines, we're going to save the planet. No, you're not. All you're doing is subsidizing people, and some people are going to make a lot of money off that. I get that. But, you have people that don't want, like in South Dakota, they may not want a pipeline on their private property, so they don't sell. Well, what they want to do is kneecap the ability of states and localities to protect private property rights by having restrictions on eminent domain. So now that's going to be wiped from the books, and they're going to be able to go in over the head of landowners. They also want to override all local and state zoning laws against these AI data centers. These AI data centers are like massive amounts of power that go into them. Do you want those just set up in right by the rec center of some residential neighborhood? I think you should be able to say no if that's the case. So there is a they are trying to take away the ability of states to act in some of these spheres. But I think AI is really important that we retain that so that we're able to make some thoughtful calculations. But it is very difficult because of how rapid it changes, and you could have the perfect solution today, and in 6 months it is possible that that solution is obsolete. All right, thanks everybody. God bless you all. Take care. Great job. Yeah. Good luck at FSU. Good luck at Osceola County. Good luck to you. Thanks so much. Yeah. We'll see. Thank you, sir.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Good morning to you and welcome into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer. Thanks for joining us here on this Tuesday morning live on Fox Local and on YouTube. Good to be back with you after a couple of days off. Appreciate you joining us here this morning. And we do have a lot to get to this morning. Want to let you know coming up at 11:40, we have a live interview about legal aid during natural disaster. A lot of times when a hurricane hits, there are legal issues and questions that come up, and you may need someone in your corner. So there are folks out there who help people navigate these natural disasters. We're going to talk with one of them coming up in just a little bit, as we are now in hurricane season. Hopefully no major impacts this year, but certainly want you to be prepared. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. That is a live look right there of a Senate hearing being held right now on Capitol Hill about border policy and its impacts ahead of the World Cup, the Olympics, number of other sporting events around the country. That was Senator Langford asking some questions of one of the witnesses testifying. We heard just a little bit ago from Senator Ashley Moody.